scope on a shotgun.
We are, Walter. Before we get started, let's show everybody what you're going to need to mount a scope on a shotgun. You really need just some very basic tools. Now, I have a full set of all these bits that fit pretty much any kind of firearm, but really, we're just going to use 3 bits out of that whole set to mount this shotgun.
And what's so special about these bits?
These bits actually fit the screws that are on the mounts and the rings. Taking these screws out here, there's no magic in that. You can use pretty much any kind of screwdriver you like to take it out. We're going to take these screws out. I always keep them, but basically we're not going to use these screws anymore.
Okay.
Now here's a base screw that came with our base. That's a slotted screw. And you see this particular screwdriver head fits that screw perfectly. Now this is a torque wrench. And when we're talking about torque, we want to put how much pressure it takes to tighten that screw so we know it won't back off. And this gauge right here shows us how much torque we're putting on this screw. This is called a fat wrench. I think it stands for Firearm Accurizing Tool. And it has an adjustable dial on the back. And we'll set our torque to somewhere around 30 pounds for this gun.
And most manufacturers recommend that amount of torque because of setting scopes.
Yeah, there's going to be varying torques on different guns. We'll set the base at 30 pounds. On aluminum rings, you set it at a different torque. Steel rings, set it at a different torque. And this is an ideal tool, and it's not real expensive, and it'll last you a lifetime. Walter, we're going to mount this Nikon scope on this 870 turkey gun. And we're going to have to mount this base up here first, and then we're going to put the scope in the base and adjust our eye relief, get the reticle level, all of that. First thing we're going to have to do though is we're going to take these filler screws out. Now we won't use these screws again, so you don't actually have to keep them. I always do, but these won't be used anymore in the scope mounting process.
And those screws that you're taking out are handy to keep because sometimes you may change the configuration you like to plug.
Yeah, and you put them back in, and that way it won't let dirt get down inside the shotgun. Now on this particular base, they supplied 4 screws, and one screw is a little bit longer. You see that, Walter?
I see that.
We got 4 holes here. We know this barrel is going to come into this point here, so we know the long screw goes in the back.
Got it.
Now if you don't mind, Walter, I want you to put the Loctite on here for me. I'm going to hand you the screws. And then the first process is I'm going to put the base on very lightly, just finger tight. I like to put it on finger tight first because see, I've got a little bit of play in there in case one of the holes is a little bit hard to line up.
Oh, yeah.
Just makes it a little bit easier to line up all these holes.
Good thinking.
And we want to make sure we use all 4 screws because the shotgun, takes a pretty good beating from a recoil. So we want to make sure we put all these screws in there, and then we're going to torque them down to 30 inch-pounds.
That's the manufacturer's recommendation.
That is. I'm going to take the screwdriver first and get them all snug. Then we're going to use our fat wrench, torque wrench. You see that scale there, Walter?
I see that.
I'm going to bring it to the 30-pound mark, 30 inch-pounds.
So each screw won't be over torqued in it, but they'll be torqued in a uniform poundage.
Correct. See, hear that click? I'm there.
That's 30 foot-pounds.
30 inch-pounds.
30 inch-pounds.
There we go.
Thank you.
Now the base is ready. And Walter, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to loosen these screws on these rings, and then we're going to select these slots in this base
For the eye relief.
For the eye relief. Now we know that this is a standard size shotgun, and I feel like we're going to have this thing all the way to the back, so we can get the scope as far back to our eye as we can.
Now, this is scope's made specifically for shotguns with a long eye relief.
That is, it is a shotgun scope. It's a low power scope. They're typically, anywhere from 2 to 7, or this particular one is a 1.5 to 4.5 power scope.
That's a Nikon.
That's a Nikon Monarch. Walter, we're going to go ahead and mount the rings and stuff on the base. We're going to go ahead and slide this in the tube and put it on down here and get it all ready to go, and then we'll set our eye relief. What we want to do is get the correct distance from the end of the scope to the eye. And we're going to do this by raising the gun up, looking through the scope, and see what we see through the scope as far as their field of view. If we get too close to it, all we're going to see is black. And if we get too far away, Walter, you see a little bit of light and a lot of black around it. So the way to adjust the eye relief, close your eyes, put your gun to your shoulder, get it just like you would if you were going to shoot, then open your eye.
What do you see?
Well, I've got to have the scope to come back just a little bit more, not much.
Okay, you hold it up and I'll see if I can bring it back.
Okay. All right, that's good right there. Eye relief's pretty good. All right, next we're going to have to get the crosshairs level. And I've got a little tool for that.
Show me.
It's called a Reticle Leveler. It's the same device that we used on our deer rifle. Has some lines on it, has this bar on it that fits on the base, and we'll put it in just like this. It's held on by a rubber band.
How much does that cost?
Walter, these are very inexpensive. I'm guessing under 20 bucks for sure. All right. And what I'd like for you to do, Walter, is look through there and tell me which way I need to turn the scope. I know the crosshairs are canted.
Okay, can it to the right. Man, that's looking good. A little bit more, just a tidge. All right, put that up to your eye and see what you think.
Great.
Boy, that was simple and quick.
We're ready. We'll tighten her down.
Let's tighten it down. When's turkey season open?
About a month, but I want to go ahead and get this gun set up and do a little bit of practicing. I've got a friend of mine that's coming out in a little while to help us, and we're going to get him ready to go for turkey season.
We're going to shoot some make-believe turkeys?
Make-believe turkeys.
What are you going to use?
I'll show you in a few minutes. How about
All right.
that? Now, Walter, when we tighten these rings down, these are aluminum rings, and we're going to put anywhere from 10 to 15 inch-pounds on these aluminum rings. Now, on steel rings, we put more than that.
So you're going to use your torque wrench again on this?
I'm going to use my torque wrench again. I'm going to do them, good and snug with a regular screwdriver.
I notice the spacing is about equal on both of these.
Yeah, I tried to do that, make sure that this isn't bottomed out and this one has a big gap on the bottom. If you get the same distance between them, it makes for a nicer looking gun, and plus it's going to allow you to put even torque on all the fasteners.
Understood.
And we had it set for 30 pounds for our base, but now we're going to go down to about 15 inch-pounds. Let's go between 10 and 15. How about that?
Yeah, I think that's what the manufacturers recommend.
Okay. And so that's a good thing about this tool. You can swap the bits out, so you can use it for Torx, Allen heads, straight slot, or Phillips head screws.
Okay, any kind of screw head.
Yep, you ready?
Okay. So that's 10 pounds, 10 torque.
10 inch-pounds.
Okay. That clicking noise, make sure that
It lets us know that we've reached our mark. That's it. They're all torqued. We're ready to go to the field.
make some noise.
Make some noise. Let's go get her sighted in.
Let's go.